Hey there everyone. You know, Blender is kinda like Legos, Minecraft, and even Mr. Potato Head, where you can mix and match and rearrange things to whatever workflow you want. Well, today we'll be taking a look at some settings to help you create your optimal workflow. Welcome to the Digital Paul Workshop. It is I, the material glitch that turns your perfect texture into a blurry mess. Techno Meow Tinkerer. Let's log on in. Okay, I got Blender open up just to the basic default. We're not going to be dealing with too much in here. But what I want to do is come up here to Edit. And we'll come on down here to Preferences. And we'll bring this on over so we can see what we're doing. Now, this is where you can kind of set up and get some stuff to help you with your workflow. First thing we're going to take a look is the interface here. This right here allows you to change basically the font size, or basically the size of every element. And you can see it enlarges these controls as well, or small, depending upon what size monitor or screen. The default is 85. I think I'm going to start leaving mine on 1 since I'm doing tutorials. Now some of the people, they'll bring theirs up larger, maybe not quite that large, but large enough when they're doing their tutorials so that you can see what they're doing. Now if you're working on a smaller screen, you may have to change that size a little bit so you can see where everything's at. It kind of bites to a degree because it takes so much real estate having to enlarge the font, so it's kind of give or take. Now if for those of you who's feeling very exploratory, there's this Developer Extras tab, and I click right on here and it brings up this experimental. And this is for certain versions of Blender where if you want to test out stuff, I think that new tools and features they have in beta. So yeah, if you want to get around into exploring some stuff, there's a possibility. I'm currently not interested in that. I'm still trying to learn the basics of Blender before I want to start diving into all the extra stuff. Unless there happens to be a specific extra thing I need to complete a project, then I might look into it. So our next one we're going to take a look at is the viewport. Main thing we're going to look down here where it says subdivision at the bottom. I'm going to open it up, and this is your GPU subdivision. And as this thing says, it says enable GPU acceleration for evaluating the last subdivision surface modifier in a stack. So what this basically does is means it's using your GPU instead of your CPU for these features. And this comes in helpful, especially if you do have a GPU, so you don't tie up all the resources of your computer. The next one we'll take a look at is the add-on. Now if you go watch my how's that doing off for? That should be on. You can watch my previous video I did last October on how to import VRMs into Blender so you can edit and then export them out for VC Face. I had downloaded this out. You can watch that to see how to download these, and I may do a video because I saw some add-ons that might be interesting to use, so I might download them and do a video on some other add-ons as I explore them. But this is basically where you can install tools and features to help you in your workflow of creating things. Like I said, for this one, this lets me bring in my VRM models from Vroid Studio, where I can modify, add stuff. That's how I got my glasses on, my tail behind me, and so forth, and able to export it so I can use in VC Face. So I'm going to probably try to take a look at some of that stuff in the near future, hopefully. Next one I'm going to take a look at is the Input tab. This comes in handy for laptops or if you don't have a full keyboard or a mouse with a scroll wheel. And right here at the top we got the Emulate Numpad. This uses that main 1 through 0 keys at the top of your keyboard in the place of your number pad. So if you don't have a full keyboard with that number pad beside it, or I think some laptops don't have it, this allows you to use that. And of course, as some of you already know, that numpad lets you control your viewing angle. So like if you hit 2, it might be underneath, or if you hit 7, you might be looking top down, that sort of stuff. Now the Emulate 3-button mouse pad, this will let you use the Alt key with the left mouse. Now when I was using this when I didn't have a third wheel mouse, the problem with it is that it would I could not use some of the Alt features on some other key commands. So just keep that in mind. If you do have to use this, you may not be able to use certain of the all features. I know when I try to do the alt and then left key to select to do that loop selection, I couldn't do it because it's reassigning the alt and left key to being the third wheel of the mouse. Let's see, nothing else under that. We're going to go to navigation. Now, I've recently started with this orbit. I don't know how I got deselected, but let me save it right quick. But it's orbit around selection, and what this does is lets you, whatever you select stays pretty much in the center of where you're spinning, so you can kind of work in that area. And so I'm going to start playing around with that, because it gets tiresome when you're working on something, you're having to turn and then do this and turn and do this. So I'm going to see how well that works for me. Let's go back to my preferences. Anything else? I can't think of anything else in here that might be good to change. I haven't really looked at some of this stuff too much. Another thing we're going to take a look at is our system, some stuff here. Now here, you don't want to, if you only just using your CPU, you don't have no GPU, do you want none? For me, I had to look here at CUDA. Now, I went to this website here. Let me refresh it so you can kind of see the well, I'm gonna give it an interact and refresh. I had actually Googled this, and for me, I use this CUDA enable GeForce Titan, and from what it says my version of it, but don't have the TI, just has the 1050 in that list. Let me bring this so you can kind of see. But you want CUDA or Optiplex, so you may have to look and see. Let's see, CUDA is device to use for computers running with cycles, and then Opt is device using computers running with cycles. Optiplex uses Opti for GPU. So you want that, if you're using a GPU, you want that selected to use your GPU, not your CPU. Now you can have both selected, and from my understanding, if you got both selected, it will divide the process up between the two and could lead to render faster times, but you may find some performance issues with your hardware. So I don't recommend doing this unless you just need the unless you want to try just see if you need extra speed and you're not going to be using your computer for a while. If you're wondering why I keep going around here to save preferences, I don't know why some of this stuff was turned off. I might have, because of something I did later on, I think. That's why there. But this is the save preference. Every time you do something and you want to save it right here. Now you also have an auto save. I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, but we're getting ready to go to the save feature. As we all know, the first rule of computers is save and save often. And good thing for Blender, they have this autosave automatically selected. I recommend not unclicking this, because like I said before, the first rule of computers is save and save often. Now, if you're having trouble or issues with your computer crashing while Blender, you may want to change your timer so that either it saves more often, or if that might be caused, you might want to do save less often, especially if you're going to walk away from the computer. So I recommend at least do that. Now, another feature you may be interested in, this is load UI. This is for if a person's got a certain workspace with a certain project and you want to load it in and take a look at it. But if you got your own personal work flow or workspace set up, you may want to disconnect it if you don't want to change anything of yours. And speaking of how to set up your own workspace, close this on out. You come up to File, you go to Default, and you save startup file, and it says tell you overwrite. And what this does is how you got everything set up, you can it will always open up that way. So if I come up here and if I decide to bring this right here, come back, I decide to bring this right here, and then probably change decide to save so I can get some of this stuff. So you can probably come in here and change some of your settings. Trying to figure out, there's a way to actually kind of clean that up. I have to go look up that again. And now if I go up here and I come down to default and save, every time I open up Blender, it's going to open up like this for me. And of course, if you want to go back to the original Blender setup, the factory setting, that's this feature right here. And so you can carry you on back to when you open up Blender, it'll all come back like this. It might be why my stuff was set the way it was, because I was playing around earlier, making sure I knew all this stuff before I did this video, and it probably why I deselected some of my stuff. And that's just some of the settings and preferences in Blender to help you out, hopefully make things a whole lot easier, and so you can at least customize things to your taste, your own personal workflow or style. And if you like my content, you can go to these websites right here. Links for some of them are in the description to support me in different ways, as well as like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone you think might find it interesting. And if you want to go ahead and get a jump start on installing add-ons, because there's a few of them that you find interesting, I recommend you go check out my video on Vroid Studios, the VC Face Blender tutorial. This is where I at least show you how I install that add-on, and you can use it for yours. I'll probably cover that over when I go over some add-ons I find interesting in the near future, hopefully when I do that video. But until next time, have a nice day.